There's a new world order, the leaders all shout, and everyone's frantic they're going to miss out. And the red, white and blues are still marching about. We must have a flag of our own. 'Cause this is Australia and that's where we're from. We're not Yankees' sidekicks or down under poms. And tell the frogs what they can do with their bombs. We must have a flag of our own. Chapter 22. We must have a flag of our own. I love the style of homes they call the Queensland bungalow, especially the houses that are built well off the ground for coolness. The further north you go in Queensland, the more of them you will see. The foundations are about 3 metres high, enough to use the area under the house as a garage, or hold a ute, a trailer, a billiard table, and of course, a fridge full of beer. In other words, a man's shed. I have an old mate, Ron Hodges, who lives in Ayr, a little town south of Townsville. His mate Eddie, known as Skidmark, owned one of these bungalows in the middle of a cane field. Skidmark was renowned, as you might have guessed, for his frequent passing of wind. I was a privileged guest, tongue-in-cheek, at this man's shed to partake of as much beer and as much mud crab as I could consume. The crabs had been caught in the nearby mangroves by yet another mate. Skidmark's wife, very sensibly, didn't come down the stairs while we're there, other than to hang out the washing. I really don't like to get sick from drinking too much, so I probably drank about a quarter of what the rest of them guzzled. I always pace myself when drinking beer. We certainly had a lot of laughs and enjoyed plenty of fresh crab along with the beer. My autograph is on the exposed sewerage pipe to prove I was there. Funny though, I don't remember when Ron and I got home, but I do remember at least 3 bodies passed out on the floor. Skidmark was on the trailer. The underhouse shed had a concrete floor, so it was easy to hose the smelly prawn shells and spilt beer out the door the next morning. I imagine Skidmark's wife hosing the bodies out the door as well. Channel 9's 60 Minutes has always been a good show, especially in the early days when it had no real competition on Sunday night. Charles Woolley, one of their presenters, was interested in my push for a new national flag and a republic back in the 80s. My song, A Flag of Our Own, had caused a bit of controversy in Interville RSL back then. An English committee member demanded that I be banned from the club after he read an article in the local newspaper after my show. He didn't even see the performance. The publicity I received from that was invaluable. So, a 60 Minutes crew came on my short tour around southwest Queensland. Charles drummed up the controversy, naturally, by contacting leading monarchists in the town of Warwick. They were all quite willing to talk about how misled and mistaken I was. One woman claimed I was brainwashing kids against the Queen. That was almost laughable, considering how I was taught as a kid at school myself that the Queen sat on the right-hand side of God. Every school classroom at that time had a picture of Queen Elizabeth above the blackboard. The saying was, for God, Queen and country, in that order. Australia was last on the list. We sang the English anthem, God Save the Queen, every morning. And boy, was I excited to go to Bendigo just to see the Queen and Prince Philip drive by in 1954. The little old monarchist was the one who was brainwashed. She told 60 Minutes I should be tarred and feathered and run out of town for singing A Flag of Our Own. Charles and I wandered around the fairground at the Gatton show, and Charles asked one lady what she thought of Republicans. She said, they're okay. The publican at our local drinks a bit, but he's okay. She didn't even know what a Republican was. I have to say that my push for a new flag has done me little harm. I reckon many people agree with me, but a lot of Aussies are afraid to step out of line on this issue, mainly because of the 2 world wars and the flag our soldiers fought under. None of us want to offend the diggers or their families, but I get offended every time I see the Union Jack on our flag when we win gold medals at the Olympic Games. It must make the Poms proud that one of their other countries is doing well. It also pisses me off to see the stupid boxing kangaroo fly because people feel our national flag doesn't do the job for them. If the kangaroo fits, we should do it properly. It's not seen as a joke by the Air Force or Qantas, or for the Kangaroos rugby league team. and we also call our national rugby team the Wallabies. These days, at the Ashes cricket tests, we see England supporters in the crowd flying the St George Cross flag. Even they have an independent flag separating them from the Union Jack. How ironic is that? Charles Woolley and I became mates on that tour. We've made 2 more segments for 60 Minutes since. One was in Tasmania about the wood chip industry, and the other was about my songwriting around Alice Springs. It was his producer who linked me up with the Hayes family on Undoolia, a 1,200 square kilometre cattle station virtually surrounding the east side of Alice. Jim and Gail Hayes and their 3 sons were more than happy for us to come out to the station. It opened my eyes even more to the beauty of the MacDonnell Ranges country. The landscape is vast and variable. It is indeed another world, another country almost. Undoolia is so extensive that during cattle muster it was much easier for Jim and the boys to camp out. So we sat around the campfire with them, sharing the billy. I could see the swags were spread out ready for sleeping after sundown. It wasn't until Mary Kay and I were on the Plenty Highway heading east to the coast that I asked her to write down some words. I'm into cattle, my father was too, from great-great-grandfather all the way through. I'm a relaxed driver, especially in the bush. It's a good time to reflect on the people we meet and the stories that come out of the journey. Jim Hayes told me how proud he was that his 3 boys had all come home to Undoolia. He encouraged them to learn other skills in Adelaide. Then after, they could return to the station if they wanted to. With farming and grazing becoming more difficult to prosper these days, the children often don't return. The 3 Hayes boys from Undoolia are married now and carrying on in the Hayes tradition. The song 3 Sons is about Jimmy and his boys and Undoolia Station. I won a golden guitar for it as Bush Ballad of the Year in 2000. The album on which it was released, The Way It Is, won another golden guitar for Best-Selling Album of the Year and went platinum in that same year. Queensland Bungalow was also on that album. It is understandable how attached the Hayes boys have become to their land. It's very similar, surely, to how the Indigenous Arrernte mobs out there are a part of the landscape. I understand completely how it becomes who you are. The lines, "If you take me from my land, you leave me with no soul," from Keeper of the Stones, says it all. I feel that way not only about Springbok, but about the whole nature of Australia. Each time we destroy habitat, we destroy a piece of ourselves. I can't imagine how empty I would be if I didn't feel that attachment to our original bush. I guess that's where people try to fill that void with man-made material possessions like sports cars, boats and mansions. Okay, I like to have a good car too, but not without first having some real Australian bush to take care of and to experience, to be part of. For me, it is endlessly satisfying, endlessly inspirational and exciting.